Governor-General of Australia, Major General Michael Jeffrey, and his wife Mrs Jeffrey undertake a diverse and demanding program carrying out all the functions of a head of state, contributing to our system of governance and highlighting those things that bring us together as a nation. In addition to their duties in Canberra, they travel across the length and breadth of our vast country, attending various functions, meeting people and taking the time to say well done. This is one day in their lives. Most days, including weekends, bring a number of events. Preparation for these events typically start well in advance of the event itself. Here, a marquee is being erected the day before Their Excellencies host a reception commemorating Her Majesty the Queen's birthday. The Governor-General begins most days attending to correspondence and official paperwork associated with his constitutional, community, ceremonial and Commander-in-Chief roles. The official secretary, the chief executive of the office, Mr Malcolm Hazel, works very closely with the Governor-General to ensure that the behind-the-scenes administration is effectively supporting Their Excellencies' official program.
In all cases, all of the ministers have certified that the appointments are suitable. There are a couple of treaties, a very important one, which requests your accession to, or seeking accession to, a treaty, one on intellectual property.
Checks and balances through ministerial recommendations and so on are attached to the...
Yes.
Each year, the Governor-General and Mrs Jeffrey attend over 200 community events around Australia. This morning, the Governor-General and Mrs Jeffrey are off to the War Widows Guild in Canberra for their Field of Remembrance ceremony. This group is one of around 200 organisations for which the Governor-General and Mrs Jeffrey are patrons. It is important for Their Excellencies to attend and support events like this where we honour those that gave their lives for this country and those that were left behind, as well as everyday Australians doing extraordinary things to help others.
I'm moved anew by the remarkable response it draws from millions of Australians, New Zealanders and from our friends around the world.
At every event, they try to meet and talk with as many people as possible. The time between functions and hosting events is spent dealing with documents, official papers and correspondence. After their busy morning at the War Widows function, both the Governor-General and Mrs Jeffrey return to their offices. At Government House in Canberra, program meetings in the Chancery are a regular occurrence. The Governor-General, Mrs Jeffrey and members of the executive staff conduct regular program meetings to look at balancing the wide range of competing demands on Their Excellencies' time.
Your Excellencies, I thought you might like to know that we've received very positive feedback from last week's investiture, both from the recipients and the guests alike.
These demands include presiding over meetings of the Federal Executive Council, travelling to functions across the country and internationally where the Governor-General represents the government and the people of Australia, and invitations and the hosting of events at Government House in Canberra and Admiralty House in Sydney. There are always more demands on Their Excellencies' time than can be accommodated within their daily program. While the Governor-General and Mrs Jeffrey have been attending the War Widows function, taking part in the program meeting and working in their offices, the House Manager and his staff have continued their preparation for this afternoon's function, one of around 140 that the Governor-General hosts every year. Now it is time for their Excellencies to prepare for tonight's events. This function is a reception to celebrate Her Majesty the Queen's birthday. Around 400 guests attend this afternoon's celebration of Her Majesty the Queen's birthday. Many are from the diplomatic community in Canberra.
It's going to happen. And
Esther sometime.
well, it's they say El Nino's going and La Nina replaces it shortly. So we're all doing that. But hope you enjoy yourself.
I'm sure we will.
The Governor-General and Mrs Jeffrey take this time to meet with guests and to thank them personally for their support.
On the special occasion, Her Majesty's birthday, so I hope you have a very pleasant evening.
The Governor-General will make his second speech of the day, one of around 200 speeches he makes each year.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the Queen has provided an unrivalled example of service, of wisdom and dignity to succeeding generations of Australians and to her Commonwealth family. And with these reflections in mind, I now ask you to join Marlena and me in wishing Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II a most happy 81st birthday. Would you please join me in a toast to Her Majesty the Queen? Ladies and gentlemen, the Queen. Well, a happy birthday. A happy birthday to the Commonwealth. And good to have you with us. Take care in the program. We'll have a look at it. But I'd like to do it. And I think the timing is appropriate.
As the night continues, their Excellencies have one more function to attend to. So far today, the Governor-General and Mrs Jeffrey have worked in their offices, attended a remembrance ceremony conducted by the War Widows Guild, attended a program meeting, and hosted a reception for the Queen's birthday. Now it is time for the last item on today's program. The Governor-General is patron of the Brumbies rugby team, and tonight the team is playing in Canberra and their Excellencies have been invited to attend. The Governor-General encourages all young people to belong to well-organised sporting or community groups.
Not through the virtual track.
We were just talking about just like followed the program.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
The drive home gives the Governor-General and Mrs Jeffrey the time to wind down and think about the day's events. At the steps of Government House, they are greeted by the House Manager and staff.
Excellent. Thanks for your
At the end of another long day, their Excellencies farewell the accompanying staff and retire. Tomorrow is another day.